welcome to another installment of the Metal Artist Review Show, the show where we examine the discographies of some of the truly great and or influential artists in metal history. Today, we continue on a journey through the eccentricities of the Devin Townsend Project with their album Deconstruction. It was released June 20th, 2011 on Inside Out Music. Now, this was the project's first album released on this label, which is known for its focus on progressive rock and metal acts. In their history, they have had Devin signed not only as a solo act, but also the project and the Devin Townsend Band. They've also had Evergrey, Fate's Warning, Symphony X, and they are Dream Theater's current label. That's a veritable pantheon of prog metal giants. So, without further ado, let's get into it and see what they had to offer on this album. Now, this is a record that was done almost entirely by Devin, musically speaking. He handles all the guitar work, the bass work, and even the keyboard work. The drumming is split between project regular Ryan Van Peteruijen and a very special guest. Now, this drummer is one of my favorites of all time. He is brilliant behind the kit, and that is former Soilwork, Scarve, and current Megadeth drummer Dirk Verberen. But that's not the only guest on here, as a slab of vocalists make appearances on this album. Here's the full list. I think you'll recognize some of them. So Devin really pulled out all the stops to get a lot of people from different bands of varying metal styles to help him record this album. But was more truly more? Or did it hurt the album? Let's find out, shall we? Now, the album opens with the song Praise the Lowerd, L-O-W-E-R-E-D, and I like to describe it as one gigantic crescendo. It opens with a rather peaceful aura filled to the brim with more keyboards than you can shake a stick at. The song explodes near the 5-minute mark into Devin's signature wall of sound production, and it's a little bit better for it. I don't know if I'm a big fan of the lyrics, considering the sheer amount of drug references, but that's really the only criticism. Got a little muddled in the middle, but that's about it. Pretty good song. The next song, Stand, is probably one of my least favorite of the project. It doesn't carry the sense of songwriting that so many of not only the Devin Townsend Project songs do, but a lot of Devin's other work does. It feels like something that was pieced together at the very last minute, and you'll hear me say that a lot during this review, piecemeal. This is the song that Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth, one of my favorite prog and death metal vocalists, guests on, and it's difficult to pick him out because there's so much going on. It's hard to hear him in the mix. Next is Jular, featuring guest vocals from black metal legend Ihsahn of Emperor. This song brings the album back to an interesting level. Ihsahn's vocals are easy to pick out, and they back Devin's screams up very well. But again, it feels like there's just a little too much going on within the song. This is the first song Dirk drums on, and you can feel the melodic death metal influence within it. Some blast beats here and there and stuff like that. So that's a nice touch. But other than that, the song itself feels, again, a little muddled. That's followed up by the 11-minute track Planet of the Apes, featuring vocals by Between the Buried and Me's Tommy Giles Rogers. The first part of the song falls prey to something that plagues a very small part of Devin's music. That being that there might be some interesting ideas, but it seems like they are convoluted until later in the song when they finally figure out how to have chemistry. As far as the rest of the song is concerned, it's actually really good. They balance the more powerful stuff very nicely with a really cool, more acoustic section, and it sounds really nice. That's followed up by Sumeria, a track that features guest vocals from Joe Duplantier of Gojira and Paul Masvidal, who's worked with Death before, and Cynic. I find that this song falls prey to a lot of the same things that have plagued this whole album so far. There's so much going on that it all blurs together. What makes a lot of the project's albums so good is that they take the dichotomy between simplicity and complexity, destroy it, and then rebuild it in a way that is both pleasing to the ear and challenging to the mind. On this song, it feels like they did a lot of deconstructing, but not a lot of reconstructing. However, the rougher guest vocals do provide an interesting layer for the heavier part of the song. Other than that, the song was kinda forgettable. Following that is a song with a title about a certain form of self-induced pleasure. I'll let you look that title up for yourself. Anyway, the song features a guest appearance from Greg Puciato, who at this point was the lead vocalist for the Dillinger Escape Plan. This isn't a mathcore song, but considering the nature of the song, it may as well happen. It's a 16-minute long track, so be prepared to sit and listen for a while. Again, there are a bankload of ideas flooding through this track. But unlike with the previous ones, they do seem to follow some sort of structure. That's something that's rather refreshing, as the songs thus far seem to be, and I hate to say this about Devin's music, but again, rather piecemeal. It's like a lot of the ideas haven't fit together, yet have been incredibly close to doing so. It's like they're almost there, but they're not quite there. This is the first song on here where the ideas do kind of go together. Although I will admit, at the middle part where it's basically synthesizer and a bunch of spoken word stuff and nothing else, it tends to get annoying after a bit. The song was less of a musical composition and more of a weaving journey through some incredibly odd stuff, yet this odd stuff worked together rather well. Next we have Pandemic, featuring guest vocals from one of the truly great operatic metal sopranos, Floor Jansen. It's one of only 2 songs on the album to drop under the 4-minute mark, and it's nice to have this breather after the 16-minute wampus of the previous song. I must say, this is the only song I've ever heard in the history of not only metal but music to use a full choir and have them say the words, "I farted." Only Devin could make that kind of thing sound anywhere near credible. As far as the song itself is concerned, it's alright, but it's one of the weaker cuts, and it feels like they could have used Floor a lot more than they did. She has such a beautiful voice, I would have liked to have heard that come forward a little bit more. Now that's followed up by the album's title track, which features guest vocals from Dave Brockie of Gwar, otherwise known as Odorous Arungus, I think was his stage name, and a guitar solo from Frederick Thorndahl of Meshuggah. The song's, again, very piecemeal musically speaking. It's grasping at musical straws, if you will. The song never settles into a set method. It's constantly moving, constantly going somewhere else every 3 seconds. Prog fans are going to love it. They call it innovative and genius. I tend to use the words overdone and overly saturated. But it is funny that the entire premise of the song is about, I guess, deconstructing a cheeseburger? I think was the whole premise of the song. I don't know. This album did have some very funny lyrics on it. That's one of the high points of the album, was the lyricism. And by the way, I gave up trying to understand Devin Townsend's lyrics a long time ago, so I'm really in it for the music. Finally, after all of these tracks, we reach the end of this hour and 10-minute long journey with the song Poltergeist, which is the only song on the album to feature no guests of any kind. As much as I enjoy guest performances, it felt like they were used to death on this album. It's nice to have a song where there aren't any guests and Devin and the musicians are allowed to shine a little bit more. But that being said, they take that opportunity and they kind of squander it by having yet another song that feels like it just doesn't sit where it needs to. It doesn't find a nice little niche and cozy in and settle down. Rather, it once again meanders through grasping at straws territory, trying to find something it likes, but dropping off one straw to look through the tubular riffage of another one. All in all, this album has been my least favorite of the project so far. What makes Devin's music work is when it's simple yet complex, when it plays with melodies and sounds just enough to make them memorable, but not so over the top that it makes it great on the ears. On this album, there was way too much of that toying. That being said, there were some bright spots on the album. Jular was a pretty good song overall, and the 2 10-minute plus tracks had some solid moments. But overall, the album was just so piecemeal and full of too many ideas. It all became a blur. In light of that, I'm giving Deconstruction a 6 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Click like and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell for notifications. And don't forget to check out Metalhead Central if you haven't. Next time here on the Metal Artist Review Show, we're going to be vaulting to the project's softest album. Hold it! Don't shut that browser just yet. Don't throw your computer out the window. Do not unsubscribe, because this may be one of the project's better efforts. It's the album Ghost, and we'll be going track by track and dissecting it down to its very core. Deconstructing it, if you will. I hope you'll join me, and I'll see y'all next time.